In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to fill out a timesheet using the new employee portal. You should have already seen videos or had instruction about how to log in for the first time. But once you have logged in and have access to the portal, over on the left-hand side of the window, you'll have an employee option. Just make sure that's selected. Go ahead and click on that. And that will make sure that all of these options appear below. Now the option that we're going to use is pretty straightforward. We're going to click on the timesheets folder there. And what this does is it takes you to a list of all the timesheets in the system for you. So if you've created a timesheet previously, or you created a timesheet that you're working on for this pay period, it will show up on this list for you. So it'll show the pay date, for example, the timestamp of like when you last edited the timesheet, and some other information as well. But to create a new timesheet, you're going to go up to the top right corner of the page, and there will be a new timesheet option available. There's a couple of other options that are available as well. Most of them just allow you to extract or print timesheets, and some will allow you to just customize or search through the timesheet list that you have available here. But again, you're just going to click on the new timesheet button up here at the top, and that will pull up a timesheet for the open pay period. Now, inside the timesheet, you're going to have a few options here. It will say employee, which should just typically have your name, assignment, or your job, basically. So, like my job description is in here. If you work multiple jobs with the city, you have multiple assignments, that might show up on this list here. And if you need to fill out timesheets for both of those positions, just keep in mind that you will have to do 2 separate timesheets, or more depending on how many jobs you have with the city. The payroll cycle will just show, again, the pay period that's open. So in this case, it's May 17th of 2019 through May 30th of 2019. And as well, it will show the pay period or the pay date, so when you're getting paid for these pay periods here. And then as well a schedule button. So for hourly employees, you're typically just going to enter, again, hours worked on the days that you worked, and you're going to make an entry on the days you didn't work for 0 hours worked, if that makes sense. And I'll demonstrate that in a moment. The reason being is the system just assumes everybody works an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday schedule. But with many hourly employees, that's just not the case. So in order to make sure that the system doesn't give you hours when you don't work, or things like that, we just ask that you put 0 hours on any day of the pay period that you didn't work, and just make sure to put the right hours on the days that you did. So just to give you an idea, let's say, for example, I worked 4 10s Monday through Thursday. So I would come down here to the actual timesheet itself. Now it'll have a task available, and this is just going to be, again, what you did that day. So for the most part, it's just regular hours worked, which you see here. You can select vacation hours if you have benefits like that, sick hours used. If there was a holiday, just make sure that that holiday pay code is being used on the days that the hours that you're getting paid for but didn't actually work. There's paid leave for bereavement, and there's even mileage reimbursements as well. So you'll just select the things that are applicable to you. Now, you'll make sure that the date's correct. So in this case, if I worked 4 10s Monday through Thursday, I would work 0 hours on Friday. So I would just leave that 0. Saturday and Sunday, I didn't work either. So I would just leave those 0 hours, regular hours worked. But then on Monday, I would go over to, again, Monday, May 20th, and I would just go ahead and enter in the number of hours that I worked. So in this case, I would work these 4 days, working 4 10-hour shifts. Make sure to get that entered. And then again, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was off. And then 10 hours this day, 10 hours this day, and 10 hours for the rest of the pay period. Now, you might have noticed that some of the days have decimals, like they have a couple of zeros that carry at the end. That doesn't matter as long as you worked like a full hour of work. You can put like 10.25, if you worked like an hour and 15 minutes. We don't typically track hours below the 15-minute mark, so we, at the very least, we'll do 15-minute increments. But you'll go ahead and just fill that out and make sure everything's right. And let's say, for example, that I took a day off. Maybe on Tuesday I used some vacation time that I had. You would just go down here and click vacation hours used. Then you would go over to the hours, make sure that it's the number of hours you actually used of that accrual. And what's nice is the portal will actually show you the balances that you have down in the bottom here. So you could check and see, oh, well, I've got 51 hours of vacation time, so I should be able to put that in here, as long as I got that approved by my supervisor, of course. And that's pretty much all there is to filling out the timesheets. Something to note, again, if you did work, say, a shift that you covered for somebody else on a day that you didn't work, like let's take this Friday, for example. Let's say that you decided not to work on Thursday because you decided to switch a shift with somebody who works Friday. So you would just put 0 in there, and then you would put 10 hours on the day that you actually worked. Again, it's important to note, just make sure that you have 0 hours entered on the days you did not work. That way the computer system will know that there are no hours that they were supposed to assign to you. That'll just make sure that your paycheck doesn't come in, not enough, or your paycheck comes in too big, and then we have to, go through all of the processes to get that corrected. So just double check and always make sure that everything's correct on here. Something to note with, say for example, mileage reimbursements, or really anything. If you have only one entry for a day, but maybe you worked like half the day, or maybe there was a day where you needed a mileage reimbursement, you can add an extra column or an extra row by clicking this add button over here. If you click on that, it will create, see right here, this choose one column. It'll create a second entry that you can then use to, say, fill in like a mileage reimbursement that you did on maybe this like Monday, for example. So you could just click on the date here, move that to that Monday, and then you could just put in the number of miles that you're going to get reimbursed for. So let's say that I went to a conference and I drove, 90 miles. I would put 90 in the hours column, and then you could just even leave a note like saying, that this was your mileage reimbursement, for example. This also applies if you, say, for example, had bereavement leave. So if I maybe, say, took this Thursday off because of bereavement, that would be paid leave. And then you would just put over in the comments that you used it for bereavement, and then you would put the relative that you took the leave for. So maybe, it was like an uncle had passed away or something like that. You would just go ahead and put that and specify it there. But once everything looks good, you'll go ahead up to the top right corner of the page and you'll click on the Save button. That will save the timesheet for you. And then you can go back and edit it later if you maybe aren't sure about some entries on there. But once everything looks good to go, you'll just click on the Submit button on the top right corner of the page. And that's really all there is to entering time into the employee portal. If you have any questions about how to do an entry, or you're not really sure, the best way to fill things out to make sure your hours are entered right, just go ahead and reach out to myself or payroll, and we'd be happy to help you with that.